here we are with the Used Companion magazine of 1909. This is April 22nd, and we're going to read you a story about courage and cowardice.
A battle or danger will often develop some characteristic that nothing else will bring out. In the Lone Star Defenders, Mr. S.B. Barron gives instances of both cowardice and courage that were noted in his regiment. Gum was a shabby little man, mounted on a shabby little Mustang pony. In fact, his horse was so shabby that he would tie him while we were at Dallas, away off in the brush in a raven, and carry his forage half a mile to read him rather than have him laughed at. During the time that we were kept slowly moving along in the rear of our infantry, engaged mainly in the unprofitable business of dodging balls and shells that were constantly whizzing near our heads, Captain Taylor was very anxious that his company should act well under fire, and would frequently glance back, saying, "Keep your places, men." Gum, however, was out of place so often, he finally became personal. "Keep in your place, Gum." At this, Gum broke ranks and came trotting up on his little pony, looking like a monkey with a red cap on. For having lost his hat, he had tied a red cotton handkerchief round his head. When opposite the captain, he reined up, and with a trembling frame and quivering lip, almost crying, he said, "Captain, I can't keep my place. I am a coward, and I can't help it." Captain Taylor said, sympathetically, "Very well, Gum, go where you please." It so happened that a few days later we passed his father's house, and the captain allowed him to stop and remain with his father. And thus he was discharged. At this stage of the war, we had no army regulations. If a captain saw fit to discharge one of his men, he told him to go, and he went without further authority. An instance of the opposite character may be told of Joe Welch. Joe was a blacksmith, almost a giant in stature. Joe had incurred the contempt of the company by acting in a very cowardly manner, as they thought, in one or two little personal affairs before we reached Missouri. But when we went into battle, Joe was there, as unconcerned and cool apparently as if he was only going into his shop to do a day's work. And when we made our charge down a rough hillside, when the enemy's bullets were coming as thick as hailstones, one of Joe's pistols jolted out of the holster and fell to the ground. Joe reined in his horse, deliberately dismounted, recovered his pistol, remounted, and rapidly moved up to his place in the ranks. Those who witnessed the coolness and apparent disregard of danger with which he performed this little feat felt their contempt suddenly converted to admiration.
Oh, that's a nice story. See how differently they used to write stories in magazines? I hope you have enjoyed this story. And stay tuned for more. Be sure to sub me and join me as a friend. Bye-bye.